UFC Mexico City. These are the full card predictions and the betting breakdown. I'm looking forward to talking about each of the matchups on this card. So make sure you guys smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Turn the post notifications on and make sure you share the video too. I'll be live for the entire card. Saturday, 5 p.m. Eastern time. Don't miss the fight companion. Let's get into the first fight of the night. We got Schultz versus Damian Pinas. I'm going with Schultz to upset Pinas. I really have doubts about the ground game, okay, on the Pinas side. He has big power. His striking is terrifying. Really good puncher. Boxing-based style. He trains a ton of boxing, and you can see it. He's got, like, serious impact with every single punch that he throws, and his knockout on Contender Series was sensational. But you have to dig a little deeper into him. His ground game is an absolute red flag, okay? He was mounted a few fights ago against a guy that I don't rate very highly in an awkward grappling transitions and scrambles and kind of just using his athleticism to try and escape position. And now he takes on Schultz, who's got like really good ground skills. Former collegiate wrestler, been doing grappling for a long time. I mean, he was a blue belt like over 5 years ago. I don't know what the belt is now. It doesn't necessarily matter in, MMA, jiu-jitsu, but he's been doing a ton of work for years with grappling. And I think that's going to end up being the secret recipe here against a power puncher like Pinas. Schultz is an in-your-face pressure style, but with the X factor of being able to get the fight to the ground. I anticipate Schultz to realize he's dealing with a powerhouse puncher and be, somewhat safe in the striking, safe enough to look to clinch, to look to drag it to the mat. I think he's going to get Damian Pinas down against the cage, probably a double leg. Potentially could even snatch a single leg entry and then switch to the double because of Pinas's kind of wider boxing style stance. Get him up against the cage, take his ass down. Get on top. I think Pinas is going to end up making some mistakes on the ground. You guys are going to see. And Schultz is going to be able to jump all over him with a submission attempt. I mean, you're literally looking at the guy that got the damn, Sulov stretch against Mario Mingaj on the Contender Series. Regardless of how good you think or bad you think Mario Mingaj was, the fact that he pulled off a Sulov stretch was crazy. He even landed some takedowns against Malik and gave him a competitive fight a year and a half ago on Contender Series. Schultz, I really think you have to have a pretty sound defensive grappling game to get past him. And as explosive and powerful as I think Pinas is, I got serious doubts about how good he is on the ground. And I think he's going to end up on the ground with Schultz, and he's going to be a, fish out of water. It's the best way to put it. Is a corny example, but truth be told, I think the serious level difference on the ground is the ultimate difference between the two. As good as the stand-up is for the side of Pinas, he's got to be able to stay on his feet. Minus 260 for the Pinas side as a big favorite here against Schultz. I don't think he deserves to be this big of a favorite. Big knockout puncher, mediocre level comp. Listen, Schultz's only losses are the guys that fought in the UFC. A Dylan Budka decision a few years ago, and Malik a year and a half ago on the previous Contender Series season before the last, in a relatively close fight. Fight's expected to go under 1.5 at minus 205. The Schultz submission line is not out, but I'm so interested in Schultz by sub. It was this fight here against Carlos Matos a year and 7 months ago, which not long ago, I mean, a year and a half ago, he went after it with Malik on the side of Schultz. He was terrible on the ground. He was like jumping gillies and getting put in Darce choke attempts. Matos is literally like rolling to the wrong side and bringing Pinas on top of him. I'm talking about like real, low-level BJJ. We're talking blue belt at best. And Pinas, as of recent, I saw he's, wearing the gi. He was training with Leandro Santos and blue belt. Blue belt, no stripes on it. Whereas Schultz, over 5 years ago, is competing as a blue belt in grappling. And he's a collegiate wrestler. I think you're going to see the grappling being the difference maker. And then add another element to this fight, too. We're at a high elevation. And if Pinas isn't able to deal with a grappling heavy approach, right? And let's say he doesn't even get submitted early, fatigue starts setting in if, a lot of your training style is focused upon the stand up and then even gi jujitsu, whereas Schultz is, more properly trained in the hardcore wrestling. I just really think we're going to see the former collegiate wrestler. I think we're going to see Wes Schultz shine. And I think he's being slept on big time. I don't think he's going to sit out there and just slug wild shots on the feet. I think he recognizes he's dealing with kind of like a, Deontay Wilder power puncher on the Pinas side. Definitely a guy that can crack. And I feel as though he takes advantage of the grappling deficiency, which I think you guys are going to be surprised by this Saturday. So I'm calling underdog. I'm going Wes Schultz, and I'm going submission. I think he's winning this fight to start off Mexico City with a dog. Next one, we got Erik Silva and Francis Marshall. This is not even a competitive fight in any sense of the word. It's Francis Marshall all day. Erik Silva should probably not be on the roster. I mean, he's a 39-year-old prospect, 0-2 in the UFC, got injured against Naimov, fight before he got submitted by TJ Brown, dude. It's Francis Marshall, lock of locks. Francis Marshall, split decision in a banger with Budka, but then he got robbed in a loss against Myron Santos, who's really good. Myron Santos is a problem. And I thought that Francis Marshall deserved that. I picked him in that fight. I'm picking him confidently again here. Lost to Dolgarian before he started throwing fights. Close one with Gomez. I feel like I'm thinking about Marshall's game and sub against, even though Erik Silva is a fellow grappler, I think Marshall, the better wrestler, the better MMA grappling, imposes his will if they're striking. I could see Marshall marching forward and just throwing heavy punches, cracking Erik Silva, and Silva ending up just turtling against the cage, getting pounded on and TKO'd. I think there's a possibility of that. But I could see big shots into a back take, into a rear naked strangle. I think this is the definition of a mismatch. I mean, Erik Silva, what does he do good at a high level? He's kind of a sporadic striker, very awkward, a bit sloppy. He's, like I said, 39-year-old prospect here. Let's keep it a buck. Reckless stand-up. He's going to be getting caught on the feet a lot. And then, he's got like tricky BJJ, but it's like, more sport jujitsu, not MMA jujitsu, and definitely not, dealing with a prospect like Francis Marshall. He's 26. He's getting mauled, okay? I think Marshall wins this fight probably in the first round. I'll say definitely live for the first two. Marshall's getting it done inside of the distance, and I think option one, it feels like submission. Not that he couldn't get a knockout of Erik Silva, but I think the sub will eventually open itself up as Marshall's raining some heavy shots on him, backing him up, and maybe even just taking him down and mauling him on the ground and showing the superior top game. Odds for the fight, they're not close. It's minus 700. Francis Marshall is a lock on this card. Plus 525. I'm not, it's not a crazy base take. The Wes Schultz underdog call, that's a base take. The Francis Marshall win feels like an obvious one. Let's see. Under 2.5. Do they have any lines for that? No way. It's minus 144. That's not right. No, that's not possible. Maybe minus 300 for under 2.5. They don't have any of the props that I want to look at, but I think it's also, it's live for under 1.5, but I like fight ends in round 1 or 2. And I like Francis Marshall to stop him in the first 2 rounds. I think he's absolutely going to show levels in this spot. And at 26, Marshall is still getting better, nearly 27 now. He's good. Marshall's good. I've been high on him for a bit, and I think he's really starting to put everything together. And, loss on paper to Myron Santos, but a good performance in a close fight that I think should have went his way against a highly talented fighter. This is no match. This is not competitive. It's Francis Marshall. It's finish. I'll call submission. KO's not crazy. Inside distance. First 2 rounds. Francis Marshall mauls Erik Silva. Next fight is Ernesto Kareckaite and Sofia Montenegro. It's actually feels kind of close to me. The odds don't have it close, but I think it's kind of close. I'm going to pick Kareckaite. I do think she wins a competitive decision, but Montenegro's a good striker too. And I think Montenegro, she might have a little bit more power, but then on the side of Kareckaite, she's got a little more speed, a little higher volume, a little more precision. She likes to mix up flurries in the close range and, get aggressive pressure boxing attacks off from the start. I mean, her fight on Contender Series against Carly Judice was one of the best women's fights. Probably the best women's fight. Well, honestly, probably tied with Montenegro's fight. both of them in two of the greatest women's fights in Contender Series history. So it only makes sense that they're fighting each other now in the UFC. I just think Kareckaite with, a little bit more of the experience, the Carly Judice win on Contender, and then Diani Barboza lost, but Barboza's pretty solid. And then the Cagliari win. Granted, I don't love that it was a year ago. I don't love that she's had a bit of time off, but he still deserved the win. But it was close with Cagliari. It's just with Montenegro, she's coming off the L to Cháirez. Granted, I thought she could have got that fight or it could have been a draw. I don't necessarily agree with her losing that fight. But regardless, the L on paper, I just don't feel confident that Montenegro is putting Kareckaite on her back. And then I'm looking at Kareckaite's physicality advantage, a little bit taller, a little bit longer, even though she's a very in-your-face style fighter. I think they're both going to be mixing up a lot of shots and landing punches in range. I will tell you, Sofia Montenegro, I don't want to say she's predictable, but she loads up on a lot of right hands. And I think that could get her caught a lot by flurrying shots on the Kareckaite side. I will tell you, it's an ironic nickname for Kareckaite because I don't really think she's heavy-handed. I think she's more quick hands. Like, it should have been Ernesta quick hands Kareckaite, not heavy-handed. Because when I look at her style, it's flurries. It's not one-shot knockout power, but irrelevant to the fight. I think she'll land more shots. I think quick hands Kareckaite is probably getting a 29-28 decision. I think Montenegro could land shots too. It could be competitive exchanges in the pocket, but I'm going to favor the forward pressure and volume of Kareckaite a bit over some of the power style that Montenegro brings, but without much of a serious risk of wrestling. And I do like Kareckaite's size. I like that she's got some UFC fights already. And I think hard fight to pick, though. Hard fight to pick, but it's hard for me to pick against Ernesta Kareckaite. So I'm going to favor her to get this thing in a competitive one. But when you look at the odds, I mean, minus 280 to plus 240. They're telling a story of a different fight that I'm seeing. I think deserved favorite status for the UFC veteran in Kareckaite, but I'm a lot more on the side of, minus 150, minus 200 at most. What did it open up at? It opened up at minus 325. That's interesting to me. I feel like Kareckaite being a little overvalued. I think, you look at Judy's getting it done at, minus 700 last week, but in a nail biter against Juliana Miller, some of these women's fights mismarked. Over 2.5, minus 325. I feel like these ladies are going all three. I think it's a competitive 3-round affair. I like over 2.5 at minus 325. I don't think Montenegro's knocking Kareckaite out. Neither on the other side do I think Kareckaite is knocking Montenegro out. I think it's a good 3-round, high-volume fight, and I think Kareckaite going to land a little bit more of the significant shots. What I'm interested to see, though, is at elevation, do we see either of these girls affected? I know Kareckaite is high volume and gas. Montenegro similar, but is there a possibility that, Ernesta Kareckaite has a little more steam than Montenegro that secures the win? I think that's a possible result too. So I'm going to favor Ernesta Kareckaite. I'm going to pick her on the judges' scorecards. I think she's getting a 29-28 decision. Should be a close fight. Should be a back and forth one. And I do think it's actually like a really fun women's fight. I'm going to say it now. This fight's going to deliver with, I'm not going to say fight of the night for sure, but with a good back and forth. And I think Kareckaite is winning it. Next fight, Douglas Silva de Andrade versus Javier Reyes. I feel like so many people are going to think it's an obvious Javier Reyes pick, but I think Douglas Silva de Andrade is going to get a hard-fought win over him. I know you guys are going to say, yo, you're nuts, bro. He's nearly 41. But there's, the rumor mill that Douglas Silva de Andrade is good buddies with Vitor Belfort, and they got the same physician prescribing the testosterone. So TRT Andrade at 41 nearly could potentially be more like a 34-year-old, and I don't know. He's moving up to 145 again, which I think is good for him. And it's not like he hasn't fought there. He went distance against Lerone Murphy there. And obviously, a lot of his career has been in the UFC bantamweight division. But I think Douglas Silva de Andrade is going to be live to land some overhand shots. If you watch Javier Reyes, he has a tell. That chin comes up constantly and he'll move forward and then he'll move backward with the chin like up in the air. They knock Patty Pimblett for doing it. Reyes, he's bringing it, more up. I would say he brings it higher than Patty the Batty does. And I can see Andrade catching him with some shots over the top. Reyes, he's got decent single legs, but I don't think the single leg takedown is the method of attack that, is successfully putting Andrade on his back. I think Andrade is physically going to be strong at 145. I think he's going to be fighting off some takedowns and landing some looping shots and possibility of him backing Reyes up and landing takedowns too. I think it's a close fight. I mean, we're looking at a guy in Douglas Silva de Andrade who's, 12, 14 fight UFC vet. Was he 7-6 in the UFC? A lot of UFC experience versus Reyes making a debut. Yes, Reyes is on the prospect side and had a sick win on Contender Series, destroyed Justice Torres. But I have to tell you, Justice Torres took that fight on short notice. Justice Torres was undersized in the matchup and it absolutely showed. And on top of that, I'll add this point too. Justice Torres, he also just recently lost to another guy who had taken an L on Contender Series. So like that win for Reyes, though impressive, it wasn't a high caliber name. Whereas like Douglas Silva de Andrade is going to a close decision with Miles Johns. He beats Cody Stamann. Granted, I know bantamweight and Cody Stamann's a wrestler and it was nearly 3 years ago, but I just have a bit of reserve for saying that Javier Reyes is blowing past Andrade, especially with Reyes getting a lot of finishes and looking to land the knockout shots. He's not the fastest guy. He sits with the chin up high and Andrade likes looping shots. And you're looking at the stats. Oh, bro, it's 5'10" to 5'7". No, it's not. This is a mismark. Javier Reyes is 5'7", bro. These guys are the same height, okay? Maybe Reyes is going to end up being an inch taller because Andrade is really 5'6", but there's not a size edge. There's a bit of a reach advantage for the Javier Reyes side, but he's not great at controlling distance. He's very much the pressure brawler style, and that kind of plays into Douglas Silva de Andrade's game. I know he's been out for nearly 2 years, and I know that he's nearly 41 years old, but it's a guy that's a physical beast. Another element of Douglas Silva de Andrade is he's completely incognito. Like, I don't know how to find his Instagram. I didn't find it. Maybe you find it. You let me know in the comments. I feel as though this is a potential spoiler fight. Javier Reyes, he lost to Chris McCarty less than a year ago and was outworked in that fight, backed up, caught with some shots over the top. He was getting touched too by Lance Lawrence, and Lance Lawrence, more of a mid-level prospect journeyman from outside of the UFC. And granted, he stopped him, but Lawrence kind of gassed a little bit and broke, and he was still getting to Reyes with right hands, and he was badly knocked out by Lahayan Douglas a few fights before. So I guess I have my doubts about Javier Reyes. He's a very experienced fighter, 22-5. But it's lower tier experience where Andrade, 29-6, has been fighting in the UFC for a long time. I think Douglas Silva de Andrade is live to steal a close fight here. I think he can get the nod on the judges' scorecards. I think he can catch Reyes with some shots, fight off the grappling. I don't know about Javier Reyes at 32 as the prospect. I know 8 years younger. It's one of those like fights where you're like, what? But there's flaws on him. I'm going to say Douglas Silva de Andrade at 145 is going to look a little rejuvenated after the layoff. And I think he's live to get a close win. I'm going to go with Douglas Silva de Andrade. I got my doubts about Javier Reyes here. He's a minus 220 favorite. On the other side, Andrade plus 185. I definitely understand why people will favor the Reyes side, but watch some of his fights besides him just mauling Justice Torres. And then you'll get where I'm coming from, that there's some flaws around the game. The over 2.5 minus 120. I think it's a fight that is live to go longer too. Douglas Silva de Andrade historically has been very durable throughout his UFC career. And I believe the only knockout loss in the UFC was a doctor stoppage. Yeah, Piotr Jan doctor stoppage. And he got gillied years ago against Rob Font. I look at the losses and I'm like, all right, it's at 135 recently, but Saeed, Miles Johns. I just feel like at 145, Andrade, he's going to be physically very fit and strong. And like Reyes is a little soft in the midsection. He's not like incredibly ripped. I'm not saying he's going to get fluffied like Strickland did to Fluffy with the body shot, but I just have some doubts about Javier Reyes. For a first UFC fight, you're taking on a crafty Brazilian veteran who hasn't fought in a while and is now moving up in weight. It's just kind of a spoiler situation for me. And I'm going to say Douglas Silva de Andrade is going to end up stealing a hard fought competitive decision. And I'm going to favor his side to get it done on the judges' scorecard. So Douglas Silva de Andrade with the upset is the side I'm going to ride with. Next one, Christian Quiñonez and Kris Moutinho. This feels like an obvious prediction to me. It's Christian Quiñonez by knockout. Kris Moutinho, he has been the UFC sacrificial lamb for a while, and he's fighting a Mexican fighter in Mexico. Moutinho currently 0-3 in the UFC. You look at the losses, all of them finished losses. He got knocked out violently by Malcolm Wellmaker. They give him Christian Quiñonez, who was actually scheduled last year to fight Adrian Yanez. Fight obviously didn't happen, but Quiñonez is a guy that's kind of been slept on. It's like a prospect at one point that had hyped that is just poof, gone. Like everybody forgets that Quiñonez was supposed to be pretty solid for a while. It's like he lost to Kang by sub. It was unfortunate. Lost to Barcelos by sub, but to be fair, like especially that Barcelos loss, a forgivable L 2 years ago. Granted, like violent shots landed on Khalid Taha, a nice contender series win against Long Shao, who's now fighting against Cody Garbrandt. I think some respect needs to be put on the name of Quiñonez, and the bookies agree. He's a huge favorite. He's a dangerous Mexican kickboxer. He's got pretty snappy straight rights, and I'd say he's got some stiff jabs that he works in from range, and he times the straight after it. Kind of a wide karate style stance with good low kicks. I really feel like he's one of the forgotten prospects. Hasn't fought in a while, but I think he's going to make a splash here against Kris Moutinho. They're definitely feeding him a, softball intentionally. Moutinho is like that boxing, brawling pressure. He's got a decent enough ground game, but at the end of the day, inside of the UFC, he's an opponent. Outside of the UFC, he's handling some, mediocre guys, and he's getting finishes too. You got to respect what he's done outside of the octagon. He's a tough journeyman. But Christian Quiñonez at 29 is still an interesting player in the UFC bantamweight division, and I think he's going to absolutely tee off on Kris Moutinho here. And I think he's live for a knockout in round one. I really do think Quiñonez is going to look way faster on the feet, way sharper with his straight shots, way more technical in the striking department, and with a power advantage too. I just think Moutinho's getting the light shut off. So the Christian Quiñonez side is the prediction side for me, and I think he's getting a knockout win. And the odds are crazy wide. Minus 650 for Quiñonez here to Kris Moutinho on the other side at plus 475. Agree. I think Quiñonez by KO makes the most sense as well because he's got power. Fight going over 1.5 is minus 160. I could see Quiñonez getting him out earlier. I could see a first round knockout. The last 2 UFC fights, Moutinho's been KO'd round 1. I don't think this is actually what the knockout prop's going to look like, but maybe it is. Plus 104. If that's true, that's solid. I think we're going to see a knockout for Quiñonez, and it's probably in the first round. I think he's going to absolutely outstrike Moutinho. I don't think this is a close fight. I think this is like a level difference in stand-up. Moutinho, a sitting duck to straight punches, going to have a big, disadvantage in strike speed and strike power. And I don't think we're going to see Moutinho out-grapple Quiñonez. I think Quiñonez is going to look pretty good and get a violent win. They're throwing him a softball, and I think he'll be potentially in an Adrian Yanez fight rebooked later this year. I would like to see it. And I think Quiñonez's game against a lot of fighters outside of the rankings at 135. Easy to sleep on, but still very good. Next fight, ladies going after it. It's Macy Chiasson versus Ailín Pérez. Can Macy Chiasson make weight? I don't know. I'm going to pick her, though. I'm going with Macy Chiasson to beat Ailín Pérez. I just feel Chiasson easy to sleep on sometimes, but she's got a good clinch game. She's got nice elbows and knees on the inside. I think she's got a solid stand-up arsenal from distance, but I will say sharper in the close range. Good clinch work, good dirty boxing, good cardio, good teeps from the outside, though. A long-range strike that I like for her. And on top of the striking that I think is sound enough to, pose problems for Ailín Pérez, Macy Chiasson's got a good ground game. Macy Chiasson solid. And I look at Ailín Pérez, and yes, it's smothering top pressure. It's very good takedowns and control. It's positional dominance. You know, she's looked pretty heavy on top, dominating Corral Hosa with the grappling, but striking wise, she's getting out kickboxed. I think Ailín Pérez's striking is okay at best. And she's in a fight where she needs to hit takedowns. But that's hard to do given up as much height as she is, 5'5" to 5'11". And also on top of the height difference between the ladies, we're looking at 6 inches in height, 6 inches in reach too. Like Macy Chiasson with a 72-inch reach, that's, you know, kind of extreme for the women's divisions. I think that Macy Chiasson is live to win. I know the last fight, she took the L and looked like a, you know, slow start against Yana Santos, but she finished that fight beating the shit out of Yana Santos. So she's coming in at least with some momentum after finishing strong there. And then fight before, Ketlen Vieira handles her. Ketlen Vieira is one of the better fighters at women's bantamweight, and then wins over Bueno Silva, Penny Kianza finish, and then Irene Aldana loss, unfortunate liver kick, perfect from the up kick. It was a weird sequence, but if you go back and watch that fight, Macy Chiasson wins the first 2 rounds. Macy's winning that fight, and then unfortunate, perfect liver kick, up kick, fight over. I think Macy Chiasson is a weird style for Ailín Pérez because I'm thinking about Ailín Pérez imposing the wrestling pressure. I think Chiasson's takedown defense can hold up. I think Chiasson is going to be able to land some good clinch strikes, some knees to the body, some elbows, push Ailín Pérez back. Remember Macy Chiasson shut down Norma Dumont. Similar style to Ailín Pérez with pressure, but I'd even say Norma Dumont's a better striker. I think Macy Chiasson for the upset makes a ton of sense here. I think she's going to end up getting a decision win. I think she's going to beat Ailín Pérez. I think Ailín Pérez is going to have a hard time taking Chiasson down. She might get her down. But what happens if she gets her down once and then Chiasson using the cage, getting back up, and we're in striking realm? And then we got clinch work and elbows and knees. There's more damaging strikes on the Chiasson side. And if Pérez starts fatiguing at elevation come round number 3, Chiasson could potentially get some serious damage off to secure the fight. Obviously needs to win one of the first 2 rounds. She can't just get wrestle-fucked to 1 and 2 and then win the third. But I think Chiasson can pull this one out. I mean, I'm looking at the Corral Hosa domination over a year ago now. And granted, Hosa's ground game is not great, you know? And then Daria Zelensniakova, striker. Jaws and Edwards, competitive fight. Edwards obviously just beat Nora Cornell, but competitive fight with Edwards. Edwards was able to hit some reversals on her too. Pudilova, Ashley Evans-Smith. The name value is not great, whereas like Chiasson has fought everybody. Yana Santos, Ketlen Vieira, Bueno Silva, beat Kianza twice. You include the Ultimate Fighter finale. Irene Aldana lost, but still winning that fight. Norma Dumont win. Dumont's a top contender. Raquel Pennington lost. Granted, unfortunately, she got subbed there. But 2021, that's years ago. I think Chiasson's going to shock Ailín Pérez. I still think Chiasson has some fight left in her. She looked damn good in round 3 against Santos. Little bit of a slow start. Yes, she missed weight, but maybe we have a really on-point Macy Chiasson making weight and then getting off a little faster here in this fight, stopping some of Perez's takedowns and finding some success. I think Macy Chiasson is live for the upset. I'm going to favor her. I think she can do more damage with clinch strikes here. Minus 185 for Pérez, plus 160 Chiasson. I'm going for the Chiasson side. I'm going underdog. I just feel as though it's likely. Over 2.5, I think so. Minus 325. I'm going to take Chiasson to secure 2 out of the 3 rounds and get the win here. And I can see Pérez frustrated, getting caught with elbows, getting caught with knees to the body. That size difference showing itself, especially with Pérez's smothering style. And then Chiasson having such a height advantage. The leverage battle favors Chiasson substantially in the clinch in close range against the cage. And I think that right there is going to be the X factor to success for Macy Chiasson. I'm going underdog Macy Chiasson to get it done over Ailín Pérez. Let's jump to the feature prelim. We got Jose Medina versus Ryan Gandra. I'm going with the side of Ryan Gandra. I think Gandra should be able to absolutely outstrike Jose Medina, can out-grapple him. To be honest, he can do whatever he wants here. Jose Medina's on a 4-fight losing streak. He got signed to the UFC after being dominated on the Contender Series, okay, by Magomed Gaziasulov, who the UFC has no interest in. They let him go. Gandra coming off an easy win against Trent Miller. Trent Miller was nowhere near the striking level of Gandra. And Gandra's got some boxing. He hits pretty hard. He's got A lot of knockouts. I mean, you look at the resume. Dude's got some power in his hands, and he's a good pressure boxer. And he's, I would say, pretty physically large. Like, though he's not very tall at 6'1", he's got a very broad frame. And he's a big guy here at 185. And I feel like the scarier striker for sure, with power in both hands and explosive hook blitzes. I see the heavy onslaught of strikes with KO power as a real possibility of actually getting the finish. I mean, Medina's tough, but he lacks technical skills. He's a brawler at best. He just got handled badly against Todorovic in sub, got knocked out badly against Gautier, got outstruck, outworked by Zach Reese on a decision, and then the Gadzhi Asulov fight. You look at Gandra's resume, though. 4 KOs, 2 submissions, 2 decisions. I'm asking myself, how does he get it done? I could see him choosing to go the grappling route because I think he can definitely take Medina down. But then again, we're in Mexico City. He's in a UFC debut. He's going to notice he's got a big speed advantage on Medina. He might start slugging some big power bombs. The problem is Medina's chin's pretty good. Like, I know Ateba Gautier put him out, but Gautier, regardless of what happened last time with Gautier, he lost a little bit of a stock going distance with Pelayev. Pelayev's also a slick stand-up fighter. I could see Gandra finding the knockout as well on Medina, but what I'm saying is it's not crazy if Gandra lands some shots on the feet, then decides to go towards grappling and showcase the ground skills. It's Gandra all day. It's inside distance Gandra. He should definitely finish here. I don't think this fight should go past the second round. But there's like a side of me that's like, but could Medina maybe survive the first round getting cracked and just relying on toughness, and Gandra just wants to slug and turns into like a sloppy back and forth. We're at elevation. Maybe Gandra's a little tired, and then it ends up being more of a snooze fest. And then, what if Gandra then gets a decision? You're looking at the betting lines. Gandra is minus 550. The win to me seems guaranteed. It's not about the win. It's about how does he win? That's what I'm asking myself. Medina plus 400 as a crazy wide underdog, but deservingly so. Fight to go over 1.5, minus 117. Does Medina survive the onslaught? Like, I'm trying to ask myself that same question. Gandra KO in the minus 160 range. I'm waiting for the more official props. I don't trust those. Jose Medina's resume. Let's look at it here. 1 KO loss, 2 submission losses, 3 decisions. Yasulov's not a good finisher, and really neither is Zach Reese. Gautier is a violent finisher, and Todorovic, he's an aggressive guy, and he subbed him up on the ground, mauled him in the grappling. I think there's a possibility of sub for Gandra. I could see him looking to grapple. After landing some big shots on the feet, just going towards like the path of least resistance. He also got some amateur boxing experience for Gandra. He's going to be technically levels above Medina. I guess I'll say this. Brain tells me finish. And possibility of big shots, but into the submission. I'll just go with this. I'm very curious to see what the decision prop is going to look like. I wonder, what is it going to be at? Like, we don't have any of that info yet. Obviously, we'll go into the props later on in the week, but I feel like, what if, the Gandra decision side, big plus money, we're at elevation. Maybe he gets tired, so is Medina, and they're both kind of gassed with their hands on their knees, and it ends up being a bit of like a hug fest towards the middle portion of round number 2. You get where I'm going with this? Like, there's a possibility of that. Now, granted, Gandra can crack, though. He might knock him out round 1, and I'm like way over analyzing it, but I guess I'm just curious what the props are going to look like. I'm wondering right now. I'm thinking Gandra handles business, though. So Ryan Gandra should definitely go out and beat up Jose Medina. And yes, he probably finishes him. He's probably outboxing him. He's way better at boxing. He's better at jiu-jitsu. He's better at all elements of fighting. Like, if you look at the prelims, there's the Gandra side that feels like a complete and utter mismatch. There's a side of Quiñonez that feels like a complete and utter mismatch. And there's then the side of Marshall. There's like 3 fights on the prelims that feel like crazy mismatches here with like insanely wide lines. And I don't think that any of the opposition are going to be the parlay busters. I'll tell you that much. So Ryan Gandra to go out and destroy Jose Medina. That's going to be my prediction here. It should be a one-way traffic type of fight. And if Medina goes distance, that's essentially a spiritual victory for him in this one. Next fight, main card opener. Make sure you guys hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if it's your first time watching. We got Santiago Luna versus Angel Pacheco. And yeah, the pick is Santiago Luna for sure. I don't think Angel Pacheco is going to be able to deal with this explosive athlete from Mexico. Luna has a wide stance, kind of karate esque based striking style. He throws power shots, and I will say he does kind of expose himself in the pocket, but he's young, 21 years of age. He's got a very violent, pressure based, fast starting approach to fighting. Big power in his hands, and he's coming off of a sick KO over Kwang Lee, which he took on short notice. And it was actually Kwang Lee supposed to fight David Martinez, but then Martinez got promoted to fight Rob Font, and in comes Luna and flattens him. So sensational work for Luna to take that debut in stride. My God, becoming a Mexican star on the rise. But what I'll tell you about the side of Santiago Luna, though, he's a solid grappler. He's got good grappling strength and he's got submission wins too. It's not like Santiago Luna is just a striker. You're thinking, oh, he's a KO guy. He's actually a submission guy. He's a finisher. 4 submissions, 3 knockouts. On the opposite side, you got Angel Pacheco. Pacheco, he's another guy. He got signed to the UFC after getting his ass kicked by Danny Silva in a good slugfest 2 years ago in Contender Series, but he got destroyed. And he makes his UFC debut, and Colin Loughran beat his ass. That was nearly 2 years ago. And obviously, Colin Loughran completely fallen from grace, cut from the UFC now. I think Santiago Luna should show levels to the Pacheco side as far as explosive power and athleticism goes. But with Pacheco, you got to give him respect. He's got a chin on him. He gets hit a lot, but he's got a chin. He does have some decent boxing combinations in his own right, and he's got like pretty solid, like tight pressure, high guard, a lot of dog in his heart, forward pressure style, even as he's getting hit. He's looking to mix it up. It's just he's had such a disadvantage in speed and power. And dude, he's a 34-year-old prospect on a 2-fight losing streak. Santiago Luna should definitely win. And I'm looking at Pacheco's career. Never finished before. Never. Amateur MMA, pro MMA. Never knocked out. Never submitted. But he's been out for a while. We're at elevation in Mexico. I kind of think Santiago Luna is live to blitz him with some big shots and end up ripping him apart. But maybe Luna shows off the ground skills and ends up getting a submission. I just feel like Luna's going to land so many big punches to the head. I'm like, how is Pacheco going to just absorb numerous power shots? And how is he going to deal with this explosive athlete? It just doesn't seem likely that he survives the full 15 minutes, even though he hasn't been stopped before. I'm thinking Luna puts him away. I feel like Luna KO was the first instinct, but I do think Luna's live for a sub too. He's a minus 450 favorite, very wide line. I agree though. He should be a favorite. At open, he was minus 400, so it's only gotten wider. Pacheco plus 350 on the opposite end as far as the underdog status goes. Damn, fight over 1.5 plus 100. If you really believe in Pacheco's chin, you can get plus money for having faith he survives the early onslaught. I just think he's going to be getting hit a lot. He's going to be getting hit so much, man. I just think Luna's going to put him away. And if Luna's not dropping him with the strikes, I can see Luna getting to his back and choking him. I just think Luna's going to do bad things to Pacheco. One-way traffic type of fight. Definitely like a massive disparity in strike speed between the two. And I think that's going to end up being an ultimate difference maker. I think Santiago Luna by knockout just makes the most sense. And I think he'll probably be the first guy to KO Angel Pacheco. And Luna's definitely somebody to watch here at 135. 21, explosive Mexican prospect. I will say he did get dropped early by Kwang Lee, but then turned up with a sensational KO. Yeah, Santiago Luna for the W by knockout. Next fight, Imanol Rodriguez versus Kevin Borjas. The pick has to be Imanol. Imanol's really good. Imanol could have got that decision against Joseph Morales on The Ultimate Fighter. It was a damn close fight. I remember watching it and thinking to myself, dude, I thought Imanol could have got that scorecard in his favor and won that split decision. But ultimately, Joseph Morales goes on to win the show and destroy Alibi Idris. So, like, how good is Imanol Rodriguez? Then Imanol gets the opportunity on Contender Series, and oh my God, destroys a good prospect in Roki Consejo. Roki's a solid kickboxer, a slick striker, athletic guy. Fucking violently starches him. Imanol Rodriguez is a problem. He's a wrestler. but he's got nasty stand-up, mixes it up beautifully with punches. Watch for his uppercuts, watch for his hooks, watch for the takedown threat. The guy can do it all, and he's 26 years old, so definitely a blossoming Mexican prospect on the rise in the flyweight division. On the opposite side, though, I have to put some respect on Borjas' name. He's actually a pretty slick kickboxer. He's a guy I've picked in the past. He's a tight stance striker. He's also a Contender Series winner. I remember I picked him as a big underdog on Contender Series and he won. But in the UFC, ultimately hasn't found much success. Coming off the Sumadarji loss, does have the win over Ronaldo Rodriguez, who at one point was a big prospect from Mexico, but I think we realized he was a tad bit of a fraud. And I think Imanol is a superior fighter to that. I feel like Borjas, like he can snap some good low kicks and work a stiff jab, and his striking is quick. He's not going to just sit stupid in the pocket and slug wild shit with the side of Imanol. So I think Imanol is going to fight with a high IQ game plan. It'll be boxing pressure into takedowns, and I do think he's going to find success wrestling Borjas here. I think that's a good strategy for Imanol Rodriguez, is to approach this fight with boxing pressure to set up your takedowns, and then Imanol on top, controlling position. I definitely think he's out grappling Borjas. Threatening with the sub. I mean, if you look at Imanol's fighting career, he has only one win by submission. Definitely has been Mr. Violence with the knockout. But the pathway to finish Borjas would more likely be on the ground. So potentially it could be, you know, a ground and pound finish. We saw Alessandro Costa dominate him and finish him on the ground a few years ago, or 2 years ago now. I just think Imanol wins, but is it just in a striking fight? I mean, if he does end up striking with Borjas and chinning him, I think that's incredibly badass. But Borjas went distance with Joshua Van in a striking heavy fight. And against Sumadarji goes distance. And granted, he got totally outpointed by Sumadarji. But where I'm going with it is, I think that Borjas is defensively sound in striking to avoid the big power shots of Imanol. And I don't think he just turns it into a wild slugfest. So instead, I think Imanol approaches this fight with an MMA-based game plan, mixes in takedowns with the striking, and I think he could find some good ground and pound on the side of Kevin Borjas. And I do think he could probably work well from top position and kind of maul Borjas on top, and then threaten after some, you know, softening up with shots into the submission. So submission's kind of making sense for me here with Imanol Rodriguez. Though Borjas, you know, you look at his resume, it's not like he's known for being subbed, but he has been subbed once before by a rear naked strangle. And I'm looking at Imanol Rodriguez with the pathway of getting this fight to the ground and beating him up. I kind of think rear naked strangle might be it. So Imanol Rodriguez by submission is going to be my call here. Minus 400 for Imanol, plus 330 for Borjas. Another crazy wide line. Oh my. Fucking odds, dude. Holy shit, there's some fat favorites. Over 1.5, minus 130. Under 1.5, plus 110. It could go over 1.5, but it feels coin flippy. I don't know. I don't know yet. I'm feeling like Imanol by sub at some point throughout the fight. I do think second round is a live round, especially if he wears on Borjas with wrestling and the gas of Borjas starts to slowly but surely diminish, especially at elevation too. So I think Imanol using the ground skills with some stand-up for setups more than anything else is going to absolutely shine in this spot. So Imanol for the finish by submission over Borjas is my pick. Next fight on the card, we got Edgar Cháirez versus Felipe Bunes. I'm going with Edgar Cháirez to show out in this one. Cháirez is a violent man. Edgar Cháirez coming off of a destructive performance against CJ Vergara 10 months ago. He looked like a man possessed. Cháirez, he's 30 now, and he's getting better. That's like the thing about Cháirez. He's shown improvements, man. Lost to Clayton Carpenter on Contender Series, worked his way into the UFC. And like, if you look, loses to Tyra, but like, let's not forget he had Tyra in a tight gilly in the last 10 seconds of that fight. And then, you know, the Lacerda fight had him in the sub, no contest. They run it back. He mauls him, subs him, boom. Joshua Van, competitive back and forth fight. Good striking exchanges from Cháirez there. Obviously lost, but a good slugfest against Joshua Van. And then destroys CJ Vergara. Edgar Cháirez is solid, man. And I think Felipe Bunes is a one-trick pony. He's a submission specialist with a mediocre ground game. He's coming off of a decision loss to Estevam, and Estevam is just a smother fucking grappler. He likes to get on top and just control. And it was 29-28, but it's because Bunes had the buggy choke for the entirety of round one, but no submission. There was a submission, but no like close to actually submitting the side of Esteban with the buggy choke, just held the position. Because, yeah, Bunes got awkward jiu-jitsu, got long legs. And then on the side of the fight before, hits a perfect armbar against Jose Johnson. But Jose Johnson, kind of a sloppy fighter, sus ground game. Damon Blackshear hit him with a twister. So it's like, all right, what's that win really mean to us? And then Joshua Van stopped Boone as he was busting him up with punches to the body and head, backing him up and just showing him levels. I think Edgar Cháirez is live to kind of do a little bit different than Joshua Van, but something similar. I can see Cháirez bullying Bunes on the feet and cutting him with elbows and getting in his face and dropping nasty punches. Edgar Cháirez is a mean motherfucker with good submission defense, man. I like the chances of Cháirez knocking Felipe Bunes out. But to be honest, he could hurt Bunes and they're like, I'm going to show this grappler I got the better submission game. And he could strangle him too. I can see like an ego-based Edgar Cháirez club and sub in this fight as well after doing some damage in the striking department. And I mean, if you look, Cháirez's only recent losses are against Tyra, #1 contender, and Van, champion. They're fighting each other. So like the limitless potential is on the horizon for this side of Edgar Cháirez, where like I look at Bunes, yeah, he did lose to Van, but he got crushed. At least Cháirez was kind of competitive, And then Esteban dominates him. I think Cháirez is going to beat his ass, man. Edgar Cháirez to do bad things to Felipe Bunes. 3-1 favorite. Edgar Cháirez, I think he's going to do well here. And I think he's live to win inside distance. Plus 250 on the Bunes side. Cháirez is an aggressive striker. And also Bunes, he's a 36-year-old too. He's a 36-year-old prospect, He's a Pitbull Brothers fighter, and he had some success outside of the UFC, and then gets to the octagon 1 and 2. He ain't getting no fluke armbar. Cháirez got a good submission game. Bro's not getting submitted by Tyra and not getting stopped by Van. I respect the hell out of what Cháirez can do. Bunes is getting ran over. I think Cháirez, inside distance, I'm feeling like violent strikes into, like I'm telling you, the ego-based submission. I'm curious what the subline is going to be because I can see like a club and sub because Cháirez got nasty submissions, man. Cháirez is a submission guy with, dangerous striking. I mean, if you look at his resume, Cháirez got 8 wins by sub. And then he's got 4 knockouts. Now, he does have 2 sub losses, but let's recognize this was, a 5th round Gilly years ago against Jesus Aguilar and then against Axel Osuna way back. He ended up getting subbed long time ago. Lux Fight League prospect. Guy might eventually make it to the UFC back in 2018. But going distance with Tyra and having him in a Gilly show, that ground game is, leveled up for sure. So I'm not thinking Bunes with a fluke sub. I think possibility Cháirez damaging strikes into a club and sub. So the Cháirez side to get the finish is my prediction. Next fight is the feature fight of the night. It's Daniel Zellhuber versus Bobby King Green. I'm going with Zellhuber. I have to pick Daniel Zellhuber in the spot. Even though at times I have some doubts about Zellhuber, I was right, man. I went Esteban Ribovics over him, and Ribovics showed out as a big underdog there. And then with Michael Johnson, obviously I thought Zellhuber would probably get that one. I was wrong there, but I feel as though he's got to get his bounce back. I think Zellhuber's kicks are so good, man. His kicks are better than anything else he does. He's got nice body teeps. He's got nice kicks to the body, snapping shots from distance. His hands are okay. He's just not really a heavy puncher, but he's got like a decent enough jab. I will say the knock on Daniel Zellhuber is a little stiff with the upper body, not like a very fluid head movement-based fighter. It's kind of like a set-in stance and a little bit like a plank, but the opposite side, Bobby Green with the hands low. He's live to get kicked in the face. He's live to get jabbed in the face a lot here. Bobby does have good, fast, straight punches into range. And he talks his shit and, he's the king of gamesmanship. But with those hands low, the older he gets, he keeps risking getting caught. And at 39, I just think it's a bad matchup for him. I think Zellhuber's going to be sharp with kicks, chopping at the body, teeps to the body, jabs up high, threatening with head kicks. And if Green's hands are down, he's getting kicked in the fucking face, and he could end up getting knocked out. Rufy hit him with the spinny heel kick, and then before, Jalen Turner flatlined him. His past 3 losses have been bad finishes. It's just, does Zellhuber put him away, man? With Zellhuber, he's not a great finisher. Like, you look, but 7 KOs. But yeah, inside of the UFC, though, he's yet to get a knockout. He's got 1 submission over Yagos. And then outside of the UFC, yeah, he's putting people out. And I'm thinking about Bobby Green. And you look, Ben knocked out 6 times, sub 3. So, like, he's a guy that gets finished. He hasn't lost a decision in how long? When's the last time Green lost a damn decision? To Fiziev in 2021. Outside of that, it's been finished losses left and right. But is Zellhuber going to shut him off? You know what I'll say? Zellhuber with a Darcer and Anaconda could be live. If Bobby Green ends up under Zellhuber, because he got that 77-inch reach, those long arms. But I could see a calculated Zellhuber working that stiff jab from range and landing some sharp body kicks and staying moving pretty well. I think that Daniel Zellhuber shuts Bobby Green down, and I think he's going to pull off a nice win. It's just like, how does he get it? Does he land the head kick? Does he club and sub him? Something's like worrying me about Green's chin. Like his recent win is Lance Gibson. He should have won the fight. It wasn't a split, but Lance Gibson is nowhere near the level of Zellhuber. And then the win before is Jim Miller, but you know, a 40-something-year-old Jim Miller. The past his best days, Jim Miller. And Green looks sharp there. But again, Jim Miller is not a guy that's 6'1" with a 77-inch reach and dangerous head kicks. You know, it's a close-range boxing style and good submissions. The Hoover bite finish might be it. They're kind of throwing him that, that finish chance. It's just get in my head with Zellhuber. He doesn't really pull the trigger like it happened with Michael Johnson. But I do think he's going to beat Bobby Green, but it might end up being a decision, man. Let's see. 5-1 odds. Jesus, man. Can we get some closer lines? 5-1 favorite, Zellhuber. Bobby Green plus 375. And then looking towards what? Over 2.5 rounds is minus 144. Probable that we see Zellhuber on the judges' scorecards technically pick Green apart. But you got to worry about the Green chin, especially if Zellhuber is ripping a lot of body kicks. I could see him landing a nice setup high kick too and catching Green directly on the chin. This might be the fight where Zellhuber gets us his first UFC knockout. And he's still young. At 26, he got to the UFC early. So he's one of those guys that, like, he could be just a matter of time before he finds that perfectly placed head kick. That loss was also 7 months ago to Michael Johnson. You know, so he's still in that developmental stage, even though he's got a good amount of fights. Maybe Zellhuber does deliver that first UFC KO. It's hard for me to pick it with confidence because of the lack of punch power. So he's kind of like relying on a kick KO. And as much as Bobby Green is past his prime, I think he gets shut down and outstruck. Does he get put out? Is Zellhuber going to knock his ass out? Fuck it, man. Something's telling me Zellhuber high kick. Something's whispering Zellhuber with the head kick. Watch the head kick. I'm thinking Zellhuber head kick. But decision definitely possible too. And I guess really every method of victory is possible. I'm talking about he might hit an Anaconda or a Darce. He might hit him with a head kick, or he might just outpoint him to a 3-round decision. But nonetheless, I think Daniel Zellhuber shuts Bobby Green down and absolutely outstrikes him and showcases that, he's still a pretty good prospect. Next fight on the card is the co-main event. It's Marlon Chito Vera versus David Martinez. I was tossing and turning a little bit about this one before, but I gotta go David Martinez. It's just Vera lost 3 straight. He's not bad though. Like, it's not like Vera has no chance. It's just he's such a slow starter and he's low volume. What I like about the side of David Martinez, he's a southpaw, but he is a stance switcher. But southpaw is the base. Really good footwork with a lot of kicks. Really nice kicks too. And in close range, he rips some good overhands, and he's got pretty solid boxing in close range too, with punch flurries and aggressive attacks. He's got a good right hand, a good left hand. Like, the stance switches. He hits you from a lot of different angles, and he stays moving. He's very light on his feet and quick. He's a very speedy striker. Tons of striking experience, like the karate base and the kickboxing background. And you can see that very technically polished. And the gas tank is another thing I like about Martinez. He pushed a hard 3-round pace, didn't look any bit fatigued against Rob Font, and absolutely was ripping him towards the end of the fight, and even dropped Rob Font in round 3 to close the fight with an absolute statement made at the end and clearly get that decision. And I picked David Martinez in that fight there, and he took it. He was not short notice. He had a full camp. But like I said earlier in the video, he was supposed to fight Kwang Lee, and they called him up to fight Rob Font. Now we got a David Martinez scheduled to fight Marlon Vera. So it's the fast track for the Mexican prospect right here. And it's a Vera that's lost 3 straight. He was real close with Aimon Zahabi. He dropped Aimon Zahabi with a stiff jab in round 2. But I'll tell you, man, Martinez is a lot quicker than Aimon Zahabi. Better footwork and better head movement. And I think in this one here, it's going to be another tit for tat fight. I see it competitive, but I think that David Martinez is going to be the guy that lands more strikes at the end of it. Chito Vera's problem is he's kind of like a slow pace fighter. He works like a stiff jab and he'll throw good teeps to the body. And he's got really nice snapping leg kicks and he's got really nice front kicks. But his style is just so much of a like you control the pace and I just kind of match what you do type of thing. I feel like Martinez is going to get more shots off and land the bigger shots and have the bigger moments. It's like Chito's on this 3-fight losing streak, and now he's going to be on a 4-fight losing streak. Fuck, man. It's just hard for me to pick Chito because I think it's another close one. I mean, him and Aimon Zahabi, competitive, but let's say he doesn't drop Aimon Zahabi there, more of a clear decision. Let's say he doesn't connect with a clean shot of Martinez, and it's kind of similar to what Zahabi did. Martinez getting off better shots and then outworking Chito Vera over the 3 rounds, landing a few more strikes, and, you know, Chito getting touched up and backed up a bit. The leg kicks landing, Chito landing a couple leg kicks, Martinez firing back with flurries and backing Chito up. And what the problem with Chito is in the close range is he's backed up. Like, I don't know, he freezes a little bit. I don't like that about Chito. I will say one element to the fight that pushes towards the side of Chito Vera that he has here is he does have that 3-inch reach advantage. And I think that that long jab could be effective and those kicks could be effective and a 3-inch height advantage. So there are elements of this fight that make it interesting, but where Martinez has the advantage, I think he's faster than Chito Vera. I think he has better footwork than Chito Vera. Younger than Chito Vera, 27 versus 33, 13-1 on a win streak, 2-0 in the UFC. Vera, 15-10 in the UFC, has fought everyone. It's such a tough fight to pick. I think the reason I lean Martinez is more of the what if factor moving forward. You know, I feel like when I look at the division and I look at everybody in front of Marlon Vera, he's ranked number 9 right now at bantamweight. I don't think he beats anybody in front of him. And then I look at Martinez and I'm like, you know, maybe he could beat Aimon Zahabi. He could have a competitive fight with the side of Song Yadong. You know, it's like the what if factor with the young 27-year-old. And then you add into, okay, 5 months ago, he beat Rob Font as he was preparing for Quang Lee. Now, 5 more months to improve. How much better is he going to look? Whereas Chito Vera at 33, I'm expecting the same thing as last time. So, like, he's going to need to drop David Martinez. Ultimately, Chito Vera's way to win is he's going to need to, like, land the knockdown, catch him with a big shot. He's going to need, like, a fight-changing moment. When you're talking about the tit-for-tat side of the fight, if nobody's getting hurt, David Martinez is having more moments. And then the other element that I really like about David Martinez is 3-round cardio. Granted, Chito Vera known for very good cardio as well. So I'm not saying Chito's going to gas, but Chito's a slow twitch attack and a slow starter. And he's a guy that runs a lot of miles and he's a 5-round fighter really. And it's a 3-round fight. I just think David Martinez could push that late pace and steal this fight. I'm thinking Martinez on a competitive decision. I could see 2-1. And I think David Martinez is going to get this unanimous decision probably. Could end up being a split, but I'm thinking 29-28 unanimous decision. You know, Martinez secures that 3rd round, competitive first, maybe finds more of a range in the 2nd, doesn't get caught with a stiff jab, because what I like about Martinez is that close range boxing style, right? He keeps the hands relatively close. He's got good parries and he keeps the head on a swivel. He's a lot better with upper body head movement than I'll say like an Aimon Zahabi. So I think David Martinez pulls this one out. I'm going to pick his side, and I'm going to say he gets a hard-fought decision over Chito Vera. Plus 215 for Chito Vera. David Martinez minus 255 as actually a pretty large favorite going into this one. Over 2.5. I think it happens. Minus 400. The advantage for Martinez, aside from the speed advantage with the feet and I think the slightly quicker kicks, the other edge that I like for him is close range boxing. Chito Vera has the stiff jab. Chito Vera has the longer reach and he's got good body teeps, but Martinez is going to be snapping leg kicks at him and then closing the range with the blitz. And if you back Chito up and you get him trapped up against the cage, you land some big shots. Those are fight changing moments and big scoring moments. And I think David Martinez is He's going to score more points in this fight, and he's going to get the decision over Vera. So Martinez on the scorecards is going to be my prediction for the co-main event. Main event time. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. We got Brandon Moreno versus Lorna Kavanagh. Kavanagh, the chance of a lifetime. Short notice fill-in, replacing Asu Almabayev. And I think Brandon Moreno is going to beat him. I really feel as though you have to favor the former world champion in a fight against a relatively unproven talent. Lorna Kavanagh had a sensational Contender Series knockout a year and a half ago. Had a solid back-and-forth debut against Jose Ochoa. Had a clean win over Felipe Dos Santos. And did great work in round 1 against Charles Johnson. But he completely fatigued in the second round. And then he got knocked out. Little bit of wrestling, and then he was completely gassed. On the opposite side, he's fighting a very strong wrestler in Brandon Moreno. A Mexican-style boxer in Brandon Moreno, who does have pretty solid punches in range and also able to push a high pace and a lot of 5-round experience. And this is a 5-round fight. This is Brandon Moreno's world. And then you add into it all, we are in Mexico City at elevation. What is the gas tank of Lorna Kavanagh going to look like? Because he fatigued last time in 8 minutes, less than 8 minutes against Charles Johnson in a bad loss, knocked out violently. So now you give him Brandon Moreno. Like, this is an undeserved step up. This is the number 15 guy versus like the number 5 guy in the weight class. I just really think Brandon Moreno is going to be able to outwork Kavanagh. Not saying Kavanagh's striking is not going to look good in round 1. Kavanagh's striking is beautiful. Kavanagh has hyper elite kickboxing, nasty body kicks, snapping body kicks, clean punches to the head. But he's going to need to knock Brandon Moreno out because Kavanagh is not going to have the gas for a 5-rounder with a pressure-based fighter who's got a ton of 5-round experience in Brandon Moreno. So it's Kavanagh relying on a first-round knockout, and then it's Brandon Moreno, who up until his last fight was never finished, and it was an early stoppage. Ground and pound from Cháirez into the early stoppage by the referee. Moreno was trying to work back up. And it was not Cháirez knocking him down with punches and hurting him on the feet. It was Cháirez ending up getting on top. Cháirez, one of the best grapplers in the UFC right now. And at flyweight, there's an argument he's got the best grappling in the weight class. And yes, Moreno controlled and beaten there. But Cháirez also at this point a proven vet. You know, he's a young guy, but been in the UFC for a long time. Kavanagh, biggest win is a Felipe Dos Santos decision into a Charles Johnson violent knockout loss where he completely gassed. I can't pick that side. And if Moreno can push the pace with a bit of wrestling and avoid getting knocked out early, which throughout his entire career he has, because yes, he's been ground and pound finished by Cháirez in an early stoppage, but it was nice ground and pound nonetheless. Never knocked out before, never actually KO'd. The chin of Brandon Moreno is very good. So if Kavanagh can't put away the Mexican fighter early, which Mexican fighters tend to not get put away early, what happens when we get the wrestling off in round 2 and Kavanagh's on his back and Moreno's working ground and pound and looking to pass? This could be a Brandon Moreno grappling showcase. And I think Brandon Moreno is going to get on top of a fatigued Lorna Kavanagh, and I think Brandon Moreno is going to choke him out. I'm going Brandon Moreno by submission. I don't think Kavanagh can go the full 5. I have doubts about the cardio. And then you add into the fact I got him gassing last time. He's a very explosive athlete, explosive fighter. Sometimes the gas tank bar dwindles, so he needs a knockout. And then last time gasses with Charles Johnson. Next fight against the former world champion, and we're going to do it in Mexico City. And it's a short notice fill-in spot, too. He was supposed to fight next month against Bruno Silva. I don't think it goes well. I'm going Brandon Moreno by sub. Brandon Moreno's going to get this fight to the ground. Brandon Moreno's going to push some, push some pace on Kavanagh. He's going to deal with the early body kicks and explosive strikes. He knows that this kid's a fire rocket in round 1. Slowly but surely work his way. Even Kavanagh, I could see him stopping takedowns round 1. But that threat of the takedown limits the striking game a bit. The threat of the grappling. And then let's say Moreno gets him down for a moment. Kavanagh forced to scramble and get up. That gas tank bar dwindles. I don't think Kavanagh's got the gas to go long here. I think Moreno is live for a submission win. I think second or third round, Moreno to a dominant position on the ground into a submission is the most likely result for this fight. The explosive athlete in Lorna Kavanagh needs an early knockout of Brandon Moreno, something that has never been done before. And seeing him just knocked out badly by Charles Johnson and then adding into the fact his previous 2 UFC fights, he won by decision. I cannot predict him to shock Brandon Moreno in Mexico City. So Brandon Moreno to outwork Lawner Kavanagh, fatigue Lawner Kavanagh, put some pressure on him, mix in some wrestling, gas out the explosive striker, and then finish him on the ground is the most likely outcome here. I'm going Moreno by sub to get back into form. And then you're looking towards the betting lines. Moreno a minus 230 favorite, Kavanagh a plus 195 underdog. If we go past round 2, you have to assume Kavanagh is blowing wind. Over 3.5 is minus 160. I mean, I think this fight could end up going under it. I think Moreno is live to get back on track with a finish here. And I think submission makes a lot of sense. On top, pepper in some shots, softening up Kavanagh. Kavanagh trying to get back up to his feet. Moreno heavy top pressure that he's always had into the back take. This fight could look like the Davison-Figueiredo fight of old back in 2021, where that third round rear naked strangle came in play. And I think that the former world champion, Brandon Moreno, defends his spot as a longtime staple of this UFC flyweight division and defeats a sensational prospect. Respect to Kavanagh taking the big fight. He's a really good prospect. But this is too much too soon. You get knocked out by Charles Johnson, and then your next fight is like, hey, we're putting you in the big one. We need a short notice fill-in. And he takes the chance of a lifetime. It's just relatively unlikely. As much as I like Kavanagh's stand-up, because when you watch it, it's beautiful. Ilia Topuria was hyping up his striking and his game, saying he's a future contender on the Joe Rogan podcast a while ago. It's just as good as it looks. It doesn't tell me success against Brandon Moreno now. He's 26 years old. Kavanagh in a couple of years, I definitely think is a problem, and I think he's a very good prospect. It's just when he gets met with resistance, you can see a shift in his demeanor. Watch the Charles Johnson fight. As he starts getting caught with some shots, as he starts getting backed up, the change in the face happens. The confidence on the offensive attack, insane. But as things begin to shift and we get into a pressure-based attack from Brandon Moreno, and Moreno starts having moments, I don't think Kavanagh can withstand the pressure, and I do not think he can weather the storm. Whereas I know Brandon Moreno can weather the early striking storm of the explosive Lawner Kavanagh. And I'm going to go Brandon Moreno to get this thing done and finish this fight, put on the performance he needs against a prospect like this, which is a finish. Just the decision is maybe not good enough against this short notice fill-in. And I just don't believe that Kavanagh is going to be able to survive the full 25 minutes at elevation with Brandon Moreno. I really think this is kind of a perfect scenario for Moreno in the spot. And at that minus 230 favorite tag at open, it was minus 175. Wow. I think it's honestly closer than expected at open. I thought it would open up at like minus 230, but it was minus 175. Some respect to Lawner Kavanagh on the lines. I think Moreno's going to show out and get back on track here. I mean, you got a guy that, besides the Tyra loss, it's split decision with Royval in a back and forth war, and he has a win over Royval previously. A split decision with Pantoja in a back and forth fight. Win over Amir Albazi, completely shut him down. Completely shut down Steve Erceg. In Mexico, too, Brandon Moreno's home country, this is where he thrives and shines. It's Brandon Moreno for the W, getting back on track. He's still young, too, 32. We got a prime Brandon Moreno. I think he's still got more steam left in the engine. Understand? He's got more gas left in the tank. It's not over for Brandon Moreno here this Saturday. And I think he handles business against an exciting prospect. Kavanagh will be back, and Kavanagh is one to watch, but it's too much too soon. And I believe that the UFC experience, the former champion, the championship experience, the rivalry with Davis and Figueiredo, this is the guy that wins. It's Brandon Moreno to get it done by submission. I do think he's going to stop Kavanagh in the second or third round. I think the fatigue is going to hit Kavanagh. I think the pressure of Moreno is going to get to him, and he's going to be able to deal with the early striking blitzes. Yes, Lawner Kavanagh is a sensational stand-up fighter, and if you just get wild and reckless with him, you're bound to get caught. But you have to recognize Moreno is a defensively sound boxer too, and to be fair, very durable Mexican chin. You got to respect it, and I think he's going to have enough left to handle against an explosive Lawner Kavanagh. So the Brandon Moreno side is going to be the prediction from me. I got him getting this thing done and getting back on track. We're going Moreno for the W in the main event. Those are the UFC Mexico City picks. And listen, it's back on business, Jay, in a big way. All right? This is event number 2 of the 10-week UFC marathon. So including this card, 9 straight. Keep on locking in. Smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, and turn on the post notifications because you don't want to miss a video or live stream. Let me know what you thought of the predictions in the comments. I got some underdogs on this card. I'm curious if you guys agree, so definitely let me know down below. You like the main event take? You going Moreno over Kavanagh? It's time to no longer be on the cold streak. It's hot streak time from Big J. We're bringing it back with the main event, and Moreno should thrive and shine this Saturday. Into the Valley of Success. Brandon Moreno W. I believe it's coming. Nothing to say in the comments. Just drop a W to boost the algorithm for your boy. Make sure you guys hype the video as well. I appreciate you all for watching and supporting. Love you guys, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out.